Okay, let's start. It's right 11 o'clock. Okay, so I would just start with a very good morning to all of you. And I think this is the time when we need a lot of good wishes and prayers to keep our strength going. I think this session has come at the right time when we are actually trying to free ourselves from a lot of fears, inhibitions, and trying to get into a different mode to achieve something to get sailing. So I welcome all of you today to the session on behalf of Delhi Marketing Council of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries. We all women wear a lot of hats, and I'm sure that we do have a lot of our own fears, inhibitions, which we want to break free every day. So the Wiki's Delhi Marketing Council and other councils as well, we all are committed to help to support women, empower them with as much as we can through interactions, through networking, trainings, and of course try and influence the narratives of working places, women agendas, leadership, women leadership, trying to support, motivate people, and increase the gender representation in working spaces. Today, Eika is with us, and she is one of the leading women business leaders and has, in pursuing her purpose, founded Ecom Resonance, an organization where she and her community of fellow researchers and facilitators delve into ancient wisdom to solve contemporary issues. Achieving Gurukul Fellow for Leadership and Excellence from University of Oxford, Eka is also the best-selling author of 52 Red Pills. She's also the sought-after speaker on matters of organizational and personal transformation. So we understand that she has written this 52 Red Pills book with her, along with her husband. She's co-authored it. So there is a lot to learn in terms of learning and transformation today. So which we are going to take possibly in the second part of the session. Now, I will just invite Eka to take us through the journey of fear to freedom. Let's all shine brighter together. Please.
Thank you, Damayanti. Thank you so much, Wiki Delhi Marketing Council, for having me here. And it's always and when Damayanti and I spoke the last time, this is exactly what we discussed. How it's always a pleasure to speak to young women leaders. It's always a pleasure to speak to women professionals, and it's always a pleasure to there's always a deep sense of empathy, and there's always a deep sense of belonging when one is talking to our own tribes. So thank you so much for having me over. I understand that we will go into stories in the second part of the conversation, but there is something that I wanted to share with you, and like Damayanti said it so beautifully. The fact is, we all need love, we all need strength, we all need empathy, we all need a tribe that comes together right now, right? Uh, in my journey of life, I've discovered that ये जो हमारे तीन circles होते हैं. I mean, and Hindi is fine, right? I can move between English and Hindi, cool. So all of us operate at these three levels of our existence. One is me, which is, and we'll talk more about this. The second is mine, my family, my friends, people that I depend on, people who depend on me. So mine. And then there's mankind, right? There's the larger humanity of all the work populations, the societies we live in, the civilizations we belong to, families we belong to, larger circle, right? So me, mine, and mankind. And Damayanti said it right when she said that till a few months ago we were at the mankind level of the struggle that we are dealing with right now with the current pandemic. We were all at the mankind level. कि society में हो रहा था, दुनिया में हो रहा था, the earth needed to heal, and we were all trying to do our best. The last 1 month has actually brought it home, so now it's about me and mine. Suddenly all of us, and you saw me texting just before this call, and we're all running around trying to figure out oxygen cylinders, health, vaccine, hospital beds, admissions, and suddenly it's come home, right? And that is what I actually want to talk to you about today. The fact that while this conversation on fear, panic, survival, who I am, what I should do, etc., was more applicable in our professional spaces, in our social spaces till about 2, 3 months ago. Suddenly, this conversation, this fear, this panic, this survival, this stress, this sadness, just this morning I've heard of 4 friends, every WhatsApp group that you're on is the only conversation is, somebody's passed away, somebody's surrendered to COVID. It's a scary space, and that fear has suddenly become more real, more palpable, and has come home in ways in which we don't understand it, right? So, which is why when Damayanti and I were talking about what we should speak about, we could have spoken about things to do at workplace, things to make yourself healthier, wealthier, wiser, which is, by the way, the theme of 52 Red Pills when we come to it. But what I want to talk to us about today is three things, especially because and how to deal with those things. These are things that we're facing today, but honestly, these are things we face all the time. Abhi, it may be more pronounced, it may be more real, it may be more near, and it may be something that's okay to talk about. But the fact is, we live in these spaces at all times. So there are three things that I want to speak about. The first one is why. Why do we operate? What's the origin of fear, panic, stress, uncertainty? That's the first space. The second thing that I want to talk about today is, therefore, what do you do about it? What are your responses? How do you recognize those responses to know that you're operating from this space? And the third is, how do we change the narrative? A lot of it will mix with each other. And a lot of my context, like Damayanti mentioned, is always derived from ancient wisdom. So I find it very useful to go back to our ancient scriptures and our ancient wisdom and the Vedanta, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, which is my favorite text always, to hunt for answers. So you will find a lot of references, but we'll try and make it as contemporary and as not ancient and rhetoric as we can, right? So the first part is, where does fear, where does panic originate from? Right. For all of us around the room who've done either MBAs or MAs in psychology or have studied human behavior at any level, we've all heard about the concept of circle of control and circle of concern. Right. In the Bhagavad Gita, by the way, this is beautifully defined in chapter 13 as the concept of kshetra. So kshetra, so there are these two concepts. It says kshetra and kshetragya. So kshetra is who you are, what you are, your bodies, your various bodies, your physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, mental bodies, right? And the origin of fear, the origin of anger, the origin of irritation, the origin of hurt, the origin of offense, the origin of insecurity, all happens when we operate not from our circle of control, but our circle of concern. Things that you have no influence over, right? It operates from a space of helplessness. And I'm going to bring it down to us right now, right? Think of the last fight that you've had, the last argument that you had, the last disagreement that you have, the last time you lost your temper. Who would like to share with me, what did you lose your temper on the last time? Why did you get angry? Yes, Vitika. And I love your hair, Vitika. I've been admiring it for a while.
Really, thank you, Eika. And I will connect with you separately since we have another connection, which I
Hmm.
will acquaint you with. But thanks. I think my getting out of control is becoming a little more often now that children are on online classes. So, finding my little one is more restless. My older one is a little more, I think, more patient and calm, and every time I walk into their room, I find her doing something else other than attending class. That really gets me.
So thank you, Vidika. And I'd like somebody else to also share about, and Vidika, we will connect. I'd love somebody else to share what you got angry about. So Vidika got angry about the fact that her child was not attending their class. Yes, Paramita.
Uh, so recently, I just lost my cool, obviously, on my husband, and the reason I'll tell you, it was even more funnier. The reason was, my younger toddler, 4 years old, his class needed some oil paints. And that time I was doing some work and I said, let me just skip it. I don't want to give him oil paint because I have to clean it later. Now my husband came and said, why don't you give it to him? I'll take it up. So I said, you do it. So then he said, no, in 3 minutes I have a call. And then I just lost it. Okay, I am also doing something. Let me finish it. And then for some unknown reason, I just lost it. And it kind of goes on for a pretty long time. I can say that.
Paramita. So Ritika got angry because her child didn't do something. Paramita got angry because her husband either did or didn't do something. Who else? When's the last time you really got angry? Yes, Megha.
Now, I got angry again on my child as well as my husband, and majorly on my husband because there are a lot of. Can you hear? Can
Yes,
you hear?
yes, Megha.
Okay, okay. So the thing is, ki I have a lot of instructions from everything, from everybody, from all the things which is going on, and at the moment with the lockdown, there are no helps and all, and with all these things when the instructions comes like wash your hands, you have opened the door, have you washed your hands, if you have done that, have you kept that thing in that particular area, and things goes on, and if I tell him you do it on your own, I have a bloody I'm coming from, I'm working on Saturdays, I'm working on Sundays, and then that instruction sometimes pinches. So I blasted on him ki if you don't want to, if you are instructing me, then do it yourself. I can't do it. So I raise my hand, do it yourself. I'm least bothered.
Excellent. And these are such wonderful examples that actually tell us that this sense of anger happens. Actually, we can discuss fear also. And you'll find very similar modalities of fear. All these things happen when you're operating, when you feel out of control, when you're in a state of helplessness, when you feel that there is something that somebody else needs to either. So, when you have those expectations, or the whole thing about expectations and hurt, when either you have expectations for somebody else or you think they have expectations from you, right? How does this manifest? This manifests so every time that you're not operating from your circle of control, but operating from a circle of concern. मेरे बॉस ने मुझे promotion नहीं दिया. You're angry about it. It's your space of concern. My child is not attending their classes, space of concern. My husband is not giving the oil paints that he needs to give or is not cleaning after that, space of concern. It's something that you can't do anything about. Megha saying that, yeah, manage your own self, don't give me grief about it, space of concern. Or her own helplessness, she knows that he's right, that she needs to wash her hands, she needs to do this, and the fact that she's not doing it is also making her helpless and angry with her own self, right? So every time, and by the way, this is true for fear as well. So the whole fear and panic of corona hai, people are dying, people are getting admitted into hospitals, there is job loss, there's economic loss, there are so many things I need to attend to. Will my loved ones be okay? Space of concern, things I can do nothing about. And this manifests as anger, irritation, sarcasm, fear, insecurity, panic, right? Now, so that's one way to recognize why this is happening. The reason for why is a space of concern, not control. How do you recognize this is happening? Every time that you get angry, every time you're irritated, every time you're hurt, every time you're offended, every time you're sad, every time you're jealous, every time you're insecure, every time you're scared, you're operating from concern. And that first thing is to say, how do you bring it from concern to control, right? So, and let's take corona because that's the easiest one. So I will operate from fear and panic as long as I'm seeing aspas kya ho raha hai. But I shifted to control the moment I say that, I'm going to stay in, I'm going to stay quarantined, I'll stay in the house, I'll close the door, I'll wash my hands, I'll wear the mask, I'll maintain social distancing, and I will control myself. The moment you moved it into control, you diffuse this outside layer of fear and anger. The same thing's true for our immediate relationships, and we are going to come to that next, right? So that's the first one. And I'm going to leave space, I'll park it here to explore through questions later. So the first one is, why does it happen? It happens when you've moved out of your kshetra, when you're operating from a circle of concern, not a circle of control. How do you recognize it? You recognize it every time that you notice there is anger, fear, panic, insecurity, jealousy, irritation. Watch for those, because those are telling you that you're outside your circle of control. And that's the origin of fear. That's the first one. Now, therefore, what do you do about it? Now, here's where it gets very interesting. Of course, we all heard of the word karma. We all know that the Bhagavad Gita is basically a karma Upanishad, but the concept of karma says, um, it talks about karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. Right? The whole idea of saying that do your job and don't attach yourself to the result. Much easier said than done, because everything that we do eventually has an outcome to it, right? When we are operating from our circle of concern, not from control, then if you remember your class 10 physics, who remembers their class 10th physics? Oh, come on, confidently raise your hand. Well done, Vitika and Paromita, good girls. What do you remember of the concept of center of gravity? CG.
Directly related to weight
Yes, and
and balance.
well done. Weight and balance, right? The concept of CG was that, and by the way, we used to study it in biology and biomechanics as well, about why the spine should be straight. Because when the spine is straight, then your CG is within yourself. The center of gravity is within you, right? But if your spine is leaning forward, your center of gravity shifts enough till you lose balance and fall over, right? Similarly, if we are not operating from our circle of control, and the center of gravity, the center of thought, the center of your emotions is not located inside you, then it has to be located somewhere. That is when it gets located outside you. You hook yourself to suppositions. You create a script for yourself. जब तुम अपने आप से बात नहीं करना चाहते हो या अपने आप से बात नहीं कर रहे हो, then you live by a script that is provided to you. You hinge yourself in your roles, responsibilities, how the world should be versus how it is. So, in Vidika's case, what was, and please, ladies, don't feel bad about the fact that I'm using this as the example. It's something all of us go through, right? In Vidika's case, what's making her angry? Remember, she's out of control because her son needs to attend the class. If she could attend it, she would attend it for him. So she's angry because it is something somebody else needs to do and she feels helpless about it. But what is she hinging it onto? She's hinging it onto the fact that as a good mother, she must ensure that her son attends the class, right? In Paromita's case, she's upset because she's saying, so she's angry because she is unable to, do the oil paint and whatever, the cleaning up after that, because she would like to do it, right? So she's angry because she's helpless and can't do something herself, not in control. Somebody else needs to do something. But it comes from that space of supposition and expectation of saying कि यार, you're also the husband, तुमने oil paint दे दो, साफ कर देना उसके बाद. So something that is supposed to happen, that must happen. Megha is upset because she's saying, yaar, I know ऐसा होना चाहिए, मैं अपना कर लूंगी ना, तुम अपना देख लो ना. So this whole space of what makes a good person, right? A good wife, a good mother. And by the way, as women, we die in this narrative. And we are going to talk about it when we take questions and my story around it. But the chota example that I want to give you, right? So because we hinge ourselves onto ideal roles, क्योंकि हम अपने अंदर नहीं है, हम अपने कोर में नहीं ऑपरेट करें, so we hinge ourselves into how the world must be, the script that must be played out. Like in my case, and I have two daughters, by the way, who are now almost 19 and almost 16, this whole sense of and motherhood is a role we take very seriously, how a good mother must be, right? So in my worldview, a good mother must be someone who feeds healthy food to their children, gets their homework done on time, keeps them healthy, make sure they brush at time, make sure they sleep on time, vagera, vagera. There's a whole world of what a good mother must be, an ideal mother must do. And therefore, it makes me very angry when my children are not doing something that makes me a good mother, right? So therefore, and this was an understanding I got almost about 10 years ago, because every night I would be screaming because मेरे बच्चों को brush करना चाहिए रात को. So every night was a battle that brush karo, tum log ye nahi kara, one wailing banshee forever. Till I realized that, and why was I doing it? Because I needed to be a good mother. It wasn't about them actually or their health. It was about me being a good mother. And that realization is very important. Because after that, then I realized that mere chillane se wahi, that whole conversation of circle of control, concern, etc., etc. The person that I am, not the mother I'm supposed to be, but the person that I am is able to have that conversation with a 7-year-old child and an 11-year-old, which is how old they were then, to actually say, you know what? If you don't brush your teeth at night, at 9:30, then my teeth aren't getting spoiled. I am not going to the dentist. You are. You don't do your homework. I am not going to be illiterate and unpadgawar. You will be. You don't finish your work on time or don't attend class. Your teacher is going to humiliate you, not me. And that release was such a huge release in my own mind to say that, we are all adults here, or we are all thinking humans. You can do your own thing. Like hamare ghar mein, the big issue has always been social behaviors, right? And all of us have been through this. So for years, we would have a fight, my husband and I, because he'd say mujhe nahi jana, or I'm saying nahi yaar, jana padega, dekho mere bhai ne bulaya, etc., etc., right? Because in my wife, I'm trying to be in my mind, I'm trying to be the good wife. I'm trying to be the good sister. This is how a family must be. We must go together, right? And that would lead to a lot of conflict because it's beyond my circle of control. It is something somebody else needs to do. And because we take the responsibility of either the role we play or what must happen, that then we spend our life living in those suppositions and therefore generating that whole space of fear, insecurity, anger, panic, and this whole sense of unfulfillment. I'm not enough. I'm not adequate about it, and continuously chase ourselves, right? Today, I've reached that stage where I say, "Acha dekho, bhaiya ne bulaya. Do you want to come?" Right? If he says yes, good. If he says no, I'm saying that, yeah, we've been together for 20 years. If that relationship is not important to you, then it's not my responsibility. And with that comes the greater thing and the confidence in myself that my relationship with my husband can't impact my relationship with my brother. So why do I need to go to my brother's house and justify कि मेरा husband आया है या नहीं आया है, क्यों नहीं आया है? It's him and me, right? And to allow yourself to therefore let go of the notion of लोग क्या कहेंगे, right? Very often we hold on to these roles and responsibilities, and this is true for everything. We play this in our professional lives, and Paromita, we will talk about it later when you're asking me your questions. We play it, it's played in my life. This was the biggest bane of my existence. The script we live by, the sense of being judged, the sense of being expected. What do you do about it? Watch yourself. Every time you find yourself using words like supposed to be, must be, yahi sahi hai, galat hai, right, wrong, good, bad, aisa hi hota hai. Every time you find yourself using these words, or those around you, and remember, those around you, you can do nothing about. You can only come back into your circle of control. Every time you find yourself using these words, you're operating from a supposition that you have hooked yourself to. You're operating from a script. So stop, pause, come back into yourself and find out, come back into your control to say, मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ उसके बारे में. Like this whole sense of being a corporate leader, right? So in what we were taught in our MBA and with what we experience around us, a good leader must be dominating, must be aggressive, must know it all, must not be vulnerable. And these are narratives we've been brought on, right? But is that the person I am? What do I really want to do within me? Now, the moment I've let go of the leader that I'm supposed to be and come into the person that I am, I come into my circle of control. B, that allows me to actually ask questions. That allows me to sit down with my team and say, you know what, I don't understand this. Explain this to me. It allows me to let go of assumptions and suppositions to say, but why are you saying this? Because otherwise, in the old narrative, if I ask questions, then I come across as being ignorant. But the moment I have stepped into my own self, this is a conversation I had with my parents, right? When we were very afraid that they should not take the vaccination, tabiyat kharab ho jayegi, ye hai, wo hai. And then I said, you know what? They are adults. They can think for themselves, right? So my father said, "Kya re, hamari tabiyat kharab ho gayi, so you are upset because you will have to come and look after us." I said, that I will any which ways. because I'm the daughter. I said, but you will suffer first. Know that. So my job is to inform you, not convince you. And I have found this to be so unbelievably useful in realizing कि कौन सी मेरी battle है और कौन सी मेरी battle नहीं है. Right? So that's the second one. Now, so we figured why fear, panic, uncertainty, insecurity, where do they emerge from? When you're operating from the circle of concern, not control. We've discovered, and so how do? You watch for your emotion. It's very important. Watch for your emotion. तुम कहाँ से operate कर रहे हो? और by the way, the interesting thing is that this whole journey that we're talking about today is a very personal journey. इसमें कोई और involved नहीं होता. इसमें किसी और की कोई accountability, कोई transaction external है ही नहीं. This is all a conversation and a transaction and an engagement that you're having with your own self to bring yourself back into your center. So that's the first one, watch for your emotion. The second one is watch for your words, because your words reflect your thoughts. So your words reflect your behaviors reflect your thoughts reflect your attitude reflects your values and belief systems. So start with the word. It's like how you've all seen that famous video of make your bed in the morning, right? The general wala video. So start with watching your words and start with being aware of your emotions. Now the thing is that if you become aware of your words, now what happens next? Right? So that third concept is a concept that that I have been very fascinated with. हम लोग जब छोटे होते थे, in all our schools, we used to hear this shloka that we used to recite from the Brihada Aranyaka Upanishad, which is Asato ma Satgamaya, Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya. Right? By the way, in West, this concept is called as neuroplasticity. बहुत छोटा सा basis है इसका, which basically means that the brain is a binary organ. The brain understands a 0 or a 1. It doesn't understand a -1. So either you have something 1 or you don't have something 0. The brain does not know how to undo something. The brain cannot, it doesn't process the idea of don't do this. It doesn't process the idea of losing weight. It doesn't know how to lose weight. It understands weight. It doesn't understand losing weight. It understands. So every time that you're saying, I'm not going to get angry. I am not going to get angry. I am not going to get angry. There's only anger because the brain doesn't understand the no. So it doesn't know how to undo something. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. You do not lie. You tell the truth. Right? So this is such a brilliant concept. And I've learned to, sort of apply it over years of practice now. But the idea that kyuki the brain doesn't understand a no or a cannot, every time that you're using those words, you're actually doing disservice to yourself. Right? Anybody in the room who used to be a non-vegetarian and has become a vegetarian now? Has quit non-veg? No? Nobody? Okay. So you had these phases where, and okay, I could use quit smoking or quit drinking also, but non-veg is easier because it's more public, right? Smoking and drinking are usually more personal battles. So think about it, right? If you're on a table, if you're quitting non-veg, right, and you go to a party and the table has beautiful non-veg and veg food, you spend that entire party in battle with that non-veg food. I'm not going to eat you. No, I can't eat non-veg. No, I can't have non-veg. And that whole party, तुम्हारे दिमाग में सिर्फ non-veg food है, right? So it's not gone anywhere. It's pretty much sitting in your brain. Versus somebody who's been a vegetarian all their life. They're not battling with the non-veg food. They're seeing it. It's there. They have a very peaceful relationship with it, and they eat the food they want to eat. Right? The same thing's true about weight. As long as you're obsessing with, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to lose weight, the weight exists. So you can't lose weight. You have to get into healthy food or healthy exercise, right? So the third most powerful idea is replacing the negative with the alternative. The brain and the mind doesn't understand a no. And it doesn't understand a vacuum. That's what Asatoma Sadgamaya is, right? You don't take away darkness from a room. You just introduce light. Because वो darkness हटा दोगे तो क्या होगा? Vacuum होगा वहां पे, क्या होगा? So you introduce light. You don't not tell lies. You simply tell the truth. Right? You don't not get angry. And by the way, which is why whenever we do these courses on anger management or emotional management, we need to snap the cycle of anger, right? So which is why we say you don't not get angry, but you instantly start focusing on either taking a sip of water or taking deep breaths or counting from 1 to 10. And you all remember Chak De India, right? The movie. And in Chak De India, you remember that Harpreet, the girl from Punjab, used to get really angry. And her mother used to say, ki beta gussa thuk de beta. Ya beta pani pi le beta. Because she's not saying beta gussa mat kar. She's not saying that. She's giving you an alternative. Because the brain can do only one thing at a time. It can either get angry, or the moment you've snapped it with either trying to spit or trying to drink water, then that cycle's broken. And like your like the way we build bodies and use the gym, this requires extensive practice. इसमें बहुत continuous reps चाहिए होता है. It's a muscle you need to build continuously. एक बार करने से नहीं होता है. I mean, exactly like all our struggles with building biceps. So the third thing is the sense of neuroplasticity, the sense of replacing the negative with the alternative. The simplest way I found this practicing, and I swear this is the funnest exercise and the most impactful thing you will ever do for yourself, is that I don't use negative words, or I try not using negative words. Right? So no, cannot, don't, mat karo, nahi, in any language. The language is not your slip hole in this. So no, cannot, can't, don't, mustn't, shouldn't, nahi karo, mat karo. In fact, now I've reached a stage where I try and not even use words like stop or evict or eject or any of the negative connotation words. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, especially in the current context, especially that all our spaces and times have completely disappeared. We are all at home. There's no me time. There's no everybody's in your space all the time. It's a tough one, especially conversations with spouses, conversations at work, conversations with children. It's a tough one, but I'm promising you this works like magic. And what happens is you allow yourself that pause. Imagine your bacha has come to you, can I watch TV? Instinctively you want to say no, and we are trained for saying no. But imagine if you can't say a no, what would you say? Who wants to tell me what you would say? Yes, Paru.
I would say, you can watch for 10 minutes, and mostly how I say it, you can watch after half an hour.
Okay, that's a good one.
I stall it.
That's a good one. Yes, I don't know your name.
My name is Megha.
Hi, Megha.
Also Megha. So I would rather to give them a timeline saying you can watch after lunch. If you do this, you can watch this.
Okay.
So, some sort of a bright.
अभी हम बहुत ही mature classroom conversation कर रहे हैं. You please recognize that in
No, it's not a mature conversation. This is how my child works.
I think that's very, very empowering. What else? What are the alternatives? What else do you do? So I usually turn around and say, are you feeling bored? Would you like to read a book together? Would you like to play a game? Things like that. But it allows for that pause to at least think of the alternative. And by the way, you want the magic pill on this? The magic pill on this is do this because it's a game you're playing with yourself. You're playing this with everybody. Imagine in your offices, people come and say, will you do this? And you just don't have the time. So what do you say? Because it's a game you're playing with yourself. So what do you say?
Sure, let me give it a try.
Do you really need it urgently? Let me give it a try. Can I do this for you in 4 hours? I'm really choked with this. Rather than saying a no. Because that also starts you thinking of the journey of the alternative. Your child coming and saying, or somebody coming to say, मैं छुट्टी ले लूं. And you're at year-end pressures, life is dying, and you're saying, are you mad? But what would you say? You can't say, are you mad? You can't say, no, cannot. What would you say?
You normally ask question like, why do you need the
But is it really urgent? Can't you manage without it? Or
Can't you नहीं सकते? Remember?
Yeah, but yeah.
Do you think you
I would say
this out from home?
Hi. I would say, like, how's the job going to get done if you're not there? Do you have a backup plan of somebody else covering for your job? So accountability first.
And by the way, you're also opening up your mind in that process. There might be a genuine reason because you're also trusting the other person's majority. कि यार गधा नहीं है, उसको भी समझ में आता है कि बहुत काम है करने को. So you open yourself up. So that's the third one, which I find very, very, very useful in moving from fear to freedom. Because this allows you to really open up your mind, take control of everything that we think is a circumstance or an external script, and allow you to question your beliefs. I'm not saying whether they're limiting beliefs or they're empowering beliefs. That doesn't matter. But why do you have your beliefs? Are they your personal beliefs, or is it a script that came from somewhere else, or a part of your nurture, or because you just think ऐसी होती है दुनिया? It's like how people come and tell me कि यार सीएमओ के बाद तो सीईओ ही बनना होता है. भगवान जी ने लिख के भेजा है, मतलब did it come to you written down to say कि नहीं हर सीएमओ को सीईओ बनना चाहिए? Or would you like to expand out somewhere else? And like all of us follow the rut in our corporate environment. VP के बाद AVP के बाद VP के बाद SV के बाद EVP, उसके बाद एक director. भगवान जी ने स्क्रिप्ट लिख के नहीं भेजी है. What do you want to do? Right. So 3 things, and I'll summarize before I open this up entirely. I know I've overshot time by 6 minutes, but yeah, let me summarize this. So the first one is, why do we operate from a state of fear? And I'm using fear very, very loosely. It applies to stress, it applies to irritation, anger, hurt, sarcasm, whatever else it is. We operate from there because we are not in control. We operate from a circle of concern, something somebody else is supposed to be doing. So, how do you deal with that? Watch your emotion. The second thing we said is about what does this do for you? What is your coping mechanism when you're not in control? When you're operating from concern. The coping mechanism for that is that you evolve scripts, you evolve suppositions, you evolve a sense of the world as it must be and should be and ideally be, rather than focusing on what is. And how do you watch for that? Watch your language. Watch for every time you use words like supposed to, must be, yahi satya hai, right, wrong, good, bad. And right, wrong, good, bad are very powerful words. So in my household, by the way, the way we deal with this is that if you're coming to me with an opinion or a judgment, you have to come to me with the counterparty of it, right? So when we have Trump discussions in the house, and remember, it's a very woke house with two female adolescents. So it's a very woke house. So there's a lot of Trump conversation. So till you can explain to me, you can have a point of view on Trump, but till you can also give me a very rational view on what Trump supporters think, right? Till then, I will be reluctant to accept your view on. Then I'm still doubting whether you have an informed judgment. So question your suppositions. And watch for that language, right, wrong, good, bad, sahi, galat. These words we use all the time in all our life contexts. Watch for it. And the third one is, how do you start gaining control? How do you start making that shift? What do you actually do about it? So becoming aware of emotions, good. Watching your words, very good. But how do you actually make that shift? You make that shift when you start setting up alternate neural pathways, neuroplasticity. When you start creating alternatives rather than living with the negatives and the sense of helplessness. What is the positive affirmative action that you can do to change? And what I found most useful in that is not using negative words. It's unbelievably powerful. You must try this. So those are 3 things. And now I open up the floor entirely so that we have time for a chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eka. Thank you so much. And the session is truly informative and we truly love it. But before we move ahead, we would just like to know a little bit more about you. So we all know that you were in a corporate position in a banking job. So how was the Ekam Foundation born? How was it formed?
Okay, so the secret is that I actually am on what I call my third life. So my first life was from the age of 13 to about the age of 33. At 13, I discovered I was a healer. I could actually heal. And I did what any teenager does at that stage, which is going to denial, anger, rebellion, resentment. I mean, there are enough challenges that a 13-year-old has, right? Career, parents, infatuations, crushes, love, identity, academics. Enough challenges to also be worried about the fact that, you may be a freak, that you're seeing things others can't and hearing things others can't. So it wasn't very pleasant. So I did what a teenager does, which is going to denial, anger, resentment, rebellion. And those are the first 20 years of my life, right? Um, and at every stage, I lived through, this whole, and that's why I want to bring this out, especially in our context right now, that I always did things to earn approval. I always did things because they were cool to do, not because of what I wanted to do. Because अपने आप से तो आप बात ही नहीं कर रहे थे, अपने आप को तो आपने completely block कर दिया था. That was a more difficult conversation to have. So, I mean, and every decision of mine came from that space in those 20 years, including the fact that, I had wanted to do my engineering. I wanted to study science, not do engineering to become an engineer, but study science. But I didn't crack my IIT entrance. भाई, if you didn't crack it the first time, अगर इतनी शिद्दत थी, इतना मन था आपका फिजिक्स पढ़ने का, तो आप एक और साल ड्रॉप करके पढ़ते. But, didn't have that confidence in myself. Achha, if you didn't want to do that, then you should have done a BSc Physics if you really wanted to study science. But BSc Physics from Delhi University was not cool. Economics honors was very cool. So I did Eco honors from Delhi University, hated every single day of it. Once economics got over, then the next thing to do, I had no desire to join the corporate world. Actually, I didn't even know whether I had desire or not. That was a baat ki baat hai. But at that point of time, the next cool thing to do was do an MBA from a top-based school. Okay, no sense of joining the corporate world, but just do an MBA because it's cool to do. And if you're reasonably intelligent, if your English maths are good, ho hi jata hai. So you did an MBA. While doing your MBA, by the way, you wanted to actually work in the FMCG sector because at least it had some promise or spark of being exciting. As it turned out, you were not on any FMCG list. You were the only person on campus who had an offer from all the 4 banks that came on campus. So you became a banker and hated every single day of it. Hated bhi nahi yaar, matlab just whined about it, right? When I realized this at a time, and I must share this with you, I realized it at a time. So I married my batchmate. Siddharth and I are batchmates from B school, right? And I realized that at some point of time in my banking career, I was beginning to resent him, right? Because if you saw our life from the outside, it was an identical life, right? He was public school Lucknow, I was public school Dehradun, economics on a Delhi University, MBA FMS, first day, first slot FMCG, first day, first slot banking, very similar from the outside. But inside, we were two very different people. And I actually began to resent him because I said, yeah, ye to bada khush hai. Because, matlab, he's doing well in his job, he's enjoying his life also, enjoying his job also. And remember, because I couldn't find any external reason for it, because it was an identical life. In my mind, it became a gender issue. Because that's the only difference that I could find between him and me. But in reality, if you look at because I'm a woman, because this, because that, because I needed to hold on to that hook, otherwise I couldn't explain my own unhappiness. But then when I went back and dug deep into our pasts, that's when I realized that so both of us did science. His father said कि तुम फौज join कर लो. He didn't want to join the army, he wanted to join the corporate world. तो उसने गया एनडीए का एसएसबी का एग्जाम किया, पिताजी को लाके दिखा दिया कि ये रही चिट्ठी, I could have joined but I don't want to join, I want to join the corporate world. He did eco honors because he wanted to join the corporate world. Also hated every single day of economics, but did it because he wanted to join the corporate world. I did eco because it was cool. He did an MBA because he wanted to join the corporate world. I did MBA because it was cool. There was one FMCG company that he wanted to work for. He didn't get through that company in our summer placements, first drop, didn't get through in the final placement, second drop, picked up another job and still tried for that company, didn't get through, changed jobs, went to another job, and again took for the 4th time, लगा रहा वो जब तक वो उस company में उसे नौकरी नहीं मिल गई. Right? And because that's all he wanted to do. And here I was resenting him because I was following the narrative of being cool. And remember being a banker, first day, first shot, very, very cool. So the reason for my unhappiness was because I was operating from circle of concern. What's cool versus what I wanted to do. Log kya kahenge versus what I really wanted to do. And then I created a script for myself that I wanted to live with because I didn't have my own script. So it's cool to be doing those things. MBA kara, eco, MBA, rise up in the corporate hierarchy, become the CEO, all of that, right? And then I hadn't made that shift. So that was my journey. Thankfully, there were moments of sanity in which one sort of fell in love, got married, had children, all of those things happened. But two triggers happened. First was when my second child was born, and we didn't know whether she would live or die for a while after she was born. And I felt very upset about it because I was supposed to be in the healer. And the second thing that happened is that I had a very nasty road accident when I was in Singapore. But it is literally like Bhagwan ji came and gave you one tight slap कि तुम्हें समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या? So that was the second one. And I think that is where my second life began. Between 2010, 2012, when you lost everything that there was in the world. I think that second life was when I gave up on my corporate ambitions. When I actually said, you know what, I'm doing this because it's cool to do, but this is not what I want to do. But again, remember, Asato Masat Kamaya. I can have a whole list of things I don't want to do. Naiti, 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 naiti. But what do you really want to step into? And that's when I realized all I wanted to do was my ancient wisdom, my padhai likhai, my work with people, help them achieve their resonance, heal people. Can I really explore potential, mine and others, etc., etc., etc. And that's when I began my second life ka journey, which was about 10, 12 se lekar about 2018. And you know what's very interesting in that? Is that while I was a banker, would I have become the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank? Most certainly not. But when I actually embraced what I wanted to do and I only did that, and there was enough pressure, right? So people who were and with good reason, people who were my nearest, dearest ones, my mentors, my friends, who were saying, yeah, who leaves a private banking career? तुम्हारे लिए ये नौकरी है, ये बुला रहे हैं, तुम्हें करियर भी चाहिए, ये बट इट वाज हाई प्रेशर टू से कि नहीं यार मुझे ये नहीं करना है. और तब तक तो इतना क्लियर आर्टिकुलेशन भी नहीं हुआ था ऑफ व्हाट आई वांट टू डू. बट इट वाज अ टफ बैटल. But the interesting thing is that that's when I went back to doing what I wanted to do, did mythology, got myself certified as a coach, did practicing behavioral analyst, wrote papers, etc., etc. Future Sharp Skills happened, and I became the CEO of Future Sharp Skills. But the confession is that till I was chasing that narrative, till I was wanting to be, my next grade, my next promotion, I wouldn't have made the CEO of any company, even in that life. But the moment I actually came down to my circle of control, what I want to do, what I really want to be doing, वो passion अंदर से चमकता है यार. And I actually made the first CEO of my MBA batch, man or woman. So that was the journey of the last 6-8 years till 2018. 2018, I stepped into my third life, which happened while I was at Chevening in Oxford, and the 3 months that I was there. And because there are women around this room, I can share this with you. I still remember I was there September to December 2018, and this is just after Diwali. And UK has this horrible weather and grey, gloomy, rainy day. But this transition was much easier. I remember I woke up, and because I had spent those 8, 9, 10 years in embracing myself. Who am I? Why am I? What do I want to do? From anger and denial and resentment, moving into at least embracing, accepting, loving, figuring, completely inward journey. और किसी से झगड़ा ही नहीं था आपका. I remember this morning I woke up very, it was like it was like sunshine. It was like if the world was very nice and bright and happy. And I remember I had my first session with my coach that morning, and she's the 65-year-old woman who was then dealing with her husband's grade 4 cancer remission. And she looked at me and she said, something's changed, hasn't it? I said, well, and she said two things when she heard about the rebirth, and because she figured it, she said two things which I've held very dear to me. The first, she said, Eka, it's almost like पिछले 1-1.5 साल you've been pregnant with something. And this 3 months is your period of delivery and confinement. And the second thing she said, which I thought was so valuable because I'd really like to share that with you. The second thing she said, and when we study Jungian psychology, we study that every child that's born is born a wounded child. Right? So she said, Eka, while you are nursing the wounded child, don't forget to heal the injured mother because they're both within you. And to me, those things together completely changed my life. So that's when the third life happened, and this is a life of pure, just stepping into it. It's a pure happy life. It's a fearless life. It's a graceful life. It's a sahaj life. There are no vested interests. There's no insecurity. There's no jealousy. Every day, matlab, it's just yahi hai. Matlab, this is it, right? So that's how it happened. Ekam took a long time to articulate. It took almost 10 years to articulate. So Ekam Ladies is the wisdom organization from India for the world. The purpose of Ekam, so just as when you hear Disney, the Disney's purpose is happiness, right? When you hear Facebook, Facebook's purpose is connections. The purpose of Ekam is resonance. How can I help you become the best, brightest, most resonant version of yourself? And whether you are an individual, a family, a society, an organization, a nation, civilization, doesn't matter what your unit is, but how can I help? So that's what Ekam is. That's how Ekam happened. It took a long time to come up, first embrace myself, then come up with the ability to articulate myself. So that's how it is.
Great. Ika, I just wanted to check in case you can share a few tips to keep learning for the emerging women leaders. Any inputs or tips for that?
So I'm old fashioned enough to say read, 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 and read. Okay, read anything that comes your way. I'm not a and consume content of all kinds. But the first thing, even to begin learning, you will begin learning only if you know what you want to learn. Otherwise, it's irrelevant now. Otherwise, you could learn about corporate networks, you could learn about bitcoins, you could learn about technology, you could learn about the sun and nuclear reactors, you could learn about anything. So the first question to ask yourself is, what do I want to know more about? To ask yourself that question of what do I want to know more about, you need to know who you are. So to me, even the journey of learning, like, and my daughter explained this to me, and I was very proud of her when she said this. I said, "Bas, this is a job well done." Kuch baat huई thi about last year. She was applying to various colleges and universities she wanted to get through, etc. Finished her class 12 and didn't get through the ones that she really wanted to get through. And we were talking about her, and I was worried कि मतलब बहुत ही ज़्यादा heartbreak होगा, ये होगा, वो होगा. But she said, I thought about it, mom. I thought I'd be very heartbroken, and I am. But I think I've also learned. She said, it's okay. Everything in life is either you've got what you wanted or you've learned something for that transaction. I said, bas, beta, bas. Yahi chahiye life mein. But that's how it is. For me, everything in life is a learning transaction. There is, when I talk to people, when I read, when I hear, I look at life as a learning transaction. So that's how it works. I don't have a concept of success and failure, if that helps.
Sure. Got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, participants, anybody wants to ask anything from Eka, please go ahead. This is the time. I'm sure you must have a lots of questions.
I've done a lot of talking now.
No, of course. I think everybody is just seeping in to it. So I believe. So in fact, in this thing, even I wanted to have a few questions. Like we all go through so many kind of an emotion, and sometimes it's very high, sometimes it's very low. So how can we identify that when should we look for an external support? Sometimes a sip of water is good, but when should we ask?
So
go ahead.
You're again starting, Parumita, with what's good and what's bad, right? I'm start with what your emotion is. Become aware, right? And like I said, it takes enormous practice. Right? So between those two behaviors of becoming aware of your emotion and becoming aware of your words, like let's take Vitika's example, right? In that incident of my child is not attending school, usko samajh mein nahi aa raha hai kya ki matlab school jana hai, so the first is becoming aware that you're operating from anger on something that somebody else needs to do. The second is that what is the supposition that is making you angry? The good mother I must be versus what the child needs to do, right? And from there, and once those two have happened, then the third conversation becomes of telling the child, भाई ऐसा है कि तुम्हें मैंने लैपटॉप दे दिया है, अलार्म लगा दिया है, सवेरे उठना है, क्लास में जाना है. Then you can have that thing of saying that, you know what, if you're not attending class from your room, you will come and sit outside on the dining table and put your classes on. You can't have earphones, you have to be there, you will put your video on, you will put your microphone on, and I want to see you in class. Then there's no anger in it, there's just action and consequence. So, and I've usually found it very useful. So and in both of these things, what really helps is that practice of not using negative words. It's unbelievable, because then it snaps that cycle of emotion, anger, expectation, hurt. So I must share with you the limiting belief that held me back all this while. And by now you've probably guessed it, right? This whole thing of being cool, of log kya kahenge. I would do anything to earn your respect and love. I would do anything to prove a point to you. You could challenge me into anything, and I would do it because your respect was important. Log kya kahenge? And I realized that had been my limiting belief. What's very interesting is that the epiphany was that realizing that actually deep inside me, I don't care what people think or say. The fear that was holding it back was the fear of saying, yaar, if I get away from log kya kahenge, then I will become very obnoxious. I will become very selfish, self-centered, rude and obnoxious. That's the fear, right? That's why I'm not letting go of, behave properly, look after others, be kind, etc., etc. Because I don't know what the alternative is. But the moment I step inside, I realize that actually I don't care koi aur kya keh raha hai. And you know how it liberates me? Because in my mind, the fear was that if I don't, if you don't love me, then how can I love you? Right? But the liberation was, if I actually don't care whether you love me or not, then I actually have the full freedom to love you. Then I can love you completely, because I don't need you to love me back. I don't need you to do anything for me. It's my emotion. And by the way, my family uses it also, very, very nastily uses it. So my husband will turn around and say, but, if you don't love me, don't you love me? Don't you do this? Don't you do that? I said, look, that I love you is my problem. But that you have to earn its expression is yours. Right? But suddenly I'm completely liberated. अब मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा कि अगला आदमी कुछ and I didn't think that would be the case. I was actually very scared. But it suddenly liberates you. The same thing, no? That I'm not doing this because I must be a good mother. If my child doesn't go into class, then people will think I'm not a good mother. Versus the thing of saying that तुम्हारी पढ़ाई है ना, and I need to make sure you're in class, not for the mother that I am, for the person you are. So you will come sit outside on the table and sit there and study. I'll tell you one of the. Actually, by the way, I have time in case you guys do. So just sort of putting it out there. There was this time where, and this was in Sri Lanka. So husband was in Sri Lanka, posted there. The girls were there, and they were just turning teenagers. So I had them at, I think, 12 and 15 types. And it was very strange, right? No, they were much younger. So, but there was this one time where he had this whole argument, तुम्हारा career, मैंने भी MBA करा है, मेरा भी corporate career है, I've become a trailing spouse, and your career come first, and blah, 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 blah. He said, stop. He said, Eika, you're a function of your choices. I said, what do you mean my choices? I said, बच्चे कोई तो देखेगा ना, मतलब family कोई तो संभालेगा ना, तुम्हारा career रहा है जो रहा है, we've all been trailing you, वगैरह वगैरह. So he said, but you've assumed you're the better parent. He said, you may be. I said, what does that mean? I said, if I get a job and, and we were in Sri Lanka at that time, I said, so if I get a job in London and if I go up there, will you and the kids follow me? He said, if that job gives you joy and gives you financial stability and you enjoy it, of course we'll follow you. So I just looked at him. I said, no, but, because obviously suddenly, you had no excuse. So I said, no, but what if, every time that you've gone, I've waited with the children till the academic year ends and this and that and stayed behind and blah, blah, blah. I said, will you do that? He said, of course I'll do that. He said, क्या होगा? He said, you're assuming you're the better parent. You may be. He said, but क्या हो जाएगा? घर ज़्यादा गंदा रह लेगा. He said, हम junk food ज़्यादा खा लेंगे, but we'll manage. So I just looked at him. I said, but why haven't you said this to me before? He said, Eka, A, you haven't asked me. And he said, B, Eka, he said, हम अपने बच्चों को सिखाते हैं कि अगर तुम अपने बुक्स और टॉयज की रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करोगे तो nobody else will. He said, so similarly, Eka, if you don't respect yourself and your choices and your professional choices enough, he said, why should I? He said, I look after the family, my work, your work, children, friends, everything else. He said, you're a thinking adult for yourself. Why do you need me to mollycoddle you? Why should I come and ask you, baby, are you happy? Baby, are you okay? Baby, is this the career you want? So you're thinking adult. And for me, that was such a huge moment of epiphany. And actually, as it turned out, 6 months later, after this conversation, I actually moved to India. And Siddharth and the girls were still in Sri Lanka. And I know there were lots of questions about it, saying, अच्छा, ये family छोड़ के आ रही है, happily married है या नहीं है, क्यों आ रही है, ये है, वो है. All that happened. And I would go back to Colombo every alternate weekend. This continued for a year. Of course, they ate junk food. They ate lots of junk food. Of course, the house was a mess. Of course, everybody pitched in. So parents, in-laws, everything happened. And a year later, the girls came and stayed with me. And about 3 months after that, Siddharth went back. But that was a moment of epiphany that if I don't respect and love myself enough, why should anyone else?
That's so true. So very true. And total revelation. Thank you so much, Eka. And it was a really wonderful session. We also have Vitika with us, who is the president of National Marketing Council. So requesting Vitika to say a few words.
Thank you, Paramita, and thank you, Damayanti, for bringing all of us together to meet someone so wonderful as Eka. Thank you so much, Eka, for giving us your time. I think this has been a wonderful session, and a lot of things that, we, like you said, a lot of scripts that we live up to. When you show them to our face, you realize there are different scripts, there are different discourses. So thank you so much for doing that for us. um, I not only want to welcome you, I also want to mention that there are a lot of other people here from the Wiki organization. We have Mrs. Manjula Jain, who is the president of the Eastern region. She basically leads the entire Eastern region for the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So Manjula ji, if you are around, please, we could see your face and say hello. That would be great. And
Ma'am, Vitika ji, she just left. She just left a message. She had to attend something very urgent, so
okay,
she just
no
left
issue.
and she said thank you so much for.
And we also have Meenu, who's our vice president for the National Marketing Council here. And Swati here, who you've just heard, is the president for the West Bengal Marketing Council. So, Eka, we are trying to build a platform for women leaders in the National Marketing Council with state organizations as well, of which Damayanti leads the Delhi Marketing Council. So it's really lovely to have you, and I am really hoping that we can sort of attract you more often, and perhaps also tell you a little bit more about our platform, and perhaps tempt you to be part of one of our councils. That I'll talk to you later. Yeah. So thank you so much, and I will connect with you separately on other connections for the last 20 years that I know we have, and I have just not been able to connect.
I shall look forward to that, Kritika. And really, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for having me over. Like I said, this is the rest of my passion, purpose, and this is what we do at Ekam. So more than happy to partner. Thank you, Damayanti and Paromita for also having me over. And ladies, wonderful to meet you. But do find your own selves. Do find your passion and your purpose. It's unbelievable how liberating and light and sahaj everything then becomes. So have fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
Eka,
you.
for sharing such beautiful insights. I'm sure we'll all seep in, and slowly we'll make each day will be a progress towards that, to love ourselves, the first and foremost. That's my biggest learning today. Loving yourself is the most important thing.
Having fun with
Yes,
yourself. Have
yes,
fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
So I'll just request everyone to switch on their cameras
Please.
so that we can just quickly take a picture.
Please
Before we do
request.
that, this is Raghini on this side. Thank you so much, Eika. And it seems like a better Sunday for me today. Thank you so much.
Sunny Sunday, Raghini ji.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'll connect with you separately. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Can we have, and also we are sharing in the chat section our Facebook group link. Please join. Let's build this community together. So requesting everybody, can you please switch on the camera for just for a second, even if it's possible. Please request.
Swati, this one is for you. By the way, just so you know that most of my sarees come from Bailoom. And I miss the fact that Corona hasn't allowed me to get that.
Eka, just tell me what colors you like. I will be in Gurgaon very often, hopefully. So
We need to have a chat, Vitika, anyways.
We'll have a chat. We'll have a chat. It's long pending from my side. Ever since I read the 52 pills.
Oh, I'm so proud of you just for that. Mwah.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we have taken the screenshot.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
And I
so
just
much.
wanted
Thank you
to
so much.
thank the Delhi Marketing Council team who has worked really hard to put this together and get everybody on board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank
Good
you.
day. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.